about a third of the way through the NBA season, and I feel like this is one of the weirdest ones yet. But maybe people say that about every NBA season, I don't really know. But you have the Minnesota Timberwolves in first place in the Western Conference, you have the Detroit Pistons on a 24-game losing streak, and the Memphis Grizzlies are 12 games under 500 right now. But I do think the latest few weeks of basketball has kind of cemented where teams rank in the NBA. Obviously, there's going to be movement in the standings, especially with how tight things are right now in both conferences. There's going to be struggles, there's going to be hot streaks, there's going to be injuries, but I feel like we have a good idea of how good teams are. So let's talk about the current state of the NBA in my third iteration of the NBA Power Rankings. At number 1, I have the Boston Celtics. I've been tweaking this script for a few days now, and after Monday's game, I had the Celtics at number 1. After Tuesday's games, I had the Wolves at number 1 because the Celtics lost to Golden State, but after Wednesday's games where the Celtics won and the Timberwolves lost, the Celtics are back at my number 1 spot. The Celtics are in first place in the NBA in winning percentage, and it's easy to see why. Jason Tatum's not exactly in MVP conversations, but definitely first team All-NBA consideration, and they just have so much talent behind him. Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis is the most talented, balanced starting lineup in the NBA, and it's not particularly close. And as number 2, as I kind of spoiled, I do have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I really wish I could have released this video on Tuesday, so I could have given the Wolves the number 1 spot, but after that loss to the 76ers, I just had to give it to the better team in the Boston Celtics. Still though, the Wolves have a record of 20-6, which was above even the loftiest expectations of the biggest Timberwolves fans. They're getting all-star level play from Anthony Edwards and Cat, and DPOY level play from Rudy Gobert after a really rough 2023 season. Also just Naz Reid, period. At number 3, I have the Milwaukee Bucks, a team that hasn't lost since a shocking game against the Pacers in the in-season tournament. With how chippy that game was, and then the whole game ball endeavor a week later, I would love to see these two teams match up in the playoffs. Giannis has been on a tear lately, especially with that 64-point game he had, and even though he struggled to score the ball against the Spurs on Tuesday with only 11 points, he had 14 rebounds and 16 assists, while Dame picked up the slack and dropped 40. It's still Giannis' team, and he seems like a top contender for MVP again, and this team with Dame and Chris Middleton figuring things out can be really, really dangerous come playoff time. At number 4, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder as they continue to surprise and impress everybody. They are 17-8 and right in the thick of the fight for a home playoff game in the Western Conference. They got Shea dropping bars and game winners, Chet almost putting up triple doubles with blocks on multiple occasions, and the rest of the team's just doing their thing. This is 1000% a playoff team, and we just want to see how far this young team can go. At number 5, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Before Wednesday's game, I had them a little lower on the list. Yes, they were on a 6-game win streak, and they had the highest point differential in the league, but that was because they had a stretch where they only played awful teams. The Pistons twice, the Wizards twice, the Hornets, and the Hawks. And Joel Embiid was looking like a schoolyard bully in those games, helping the 76ers absolutely dismantle those bad teams. But Wednesday against the Timberwolves, they made a big statement, beating the best team in the Western Conference. Embiid had over 50 points and Maxey had 35. Joel Embiid's scoring average is up to an insane 35 points a game, as he continues his campaign to add another scoring title, and maybe even another MVP to his resume. And at number 6, I have the Denver Nuggets, home of the best center in the NBA still, sorry 76ers fans. Even with Jamal Murray back, the Nuggets were showing a little bit of a championship hangover, but they seem to be getting back in a rhythm as of recently. Jokic is having one of his best seasons yet, and Reggie Jackson has been great for them as a bench piece or a plug-in starter with Murray missing some time. I would like it if Aaron Gordon could shoot his three-pointers a little bit better so they could realize their full spacing potential, but this team is 19-10 and they're in a good spot. They are the reigning champions, so definitely can't count them out. The Los Angeles Clippers continue their meteoric rise up in my power rankings and now sit all the way at number 7. This is what the Clippers envisioned when they acquired Paul George and when they acquired Kawhi Leonard, when they traded for James Harden this year. I mean, they just look so fluid. They're so talented and they're so good. James Harden has been unstoppable lately. He just came off performance where he dropped 35 points on 12 of 16 shooting, as the Clippers dropped 151 points against the Pacers. And lucky for the Clippers, Kawhi is still looking to be in top form even after all of his injuries, and amazingly, he is yet to miss a game this season. With Russell Westbrook and Norman Powell coming off the bench, they are cooking, and if this team can stay healthy, they can win any playoff series. At number 8, you have the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic was on a tear immediately following the birth of his child, and the Mavericks were on a winning streak even without Kyrie Irving, as guys like Dante Exum and Jaden Hardy were playing great ball. But now the Mavericks have lost 3 of their last 4 games, and they've been against some good teams, but I'm just going to say that the magic ran out from Luka's child. I think if he just has a baby every few weeks for the rest of his career, he's going to be unstoppable. But nah, they're going to get Kyrie back soon, and they're going to be fine. At number 9, I have the Sacramento Kings. After a 2-4 start, the Kings are now up to 16-10, and around 4th place in the Western Conference. It kind of changes every day, though. The combination of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis is just overwhelming teams right now. Sabonis has been on a tear collecting triple-doubles, and De'Aaron Fox is above 30 points per game right now. It also seems like Keegan Murray's really coming into his own. He had that 47-point, 12 three-pointer game on Saturday. They just keep finding a way to beat good teams. They are 5-0 against the top 4 teams in the Western Conference, which is a pattern that bodes well for them when it comes to playoff time. And rounding out the top 10, I have the New York Knicks. There may be the teeniest bit of bias here, but the Knicks have been hooping lately. This is a team that legitimately has 2 All-Stars and maybe a 6th Man of the Year with the way that they're playing right now. This is a streaky team, but right now they're rolling. I was worried when I learned Mitchell Robinson would be out for 2 months and how it would affect our defense, and the defense has gotten worse, but having a facilitating high post guy in Isaiah Hartenstein at the 5 has been really, really good for this offense. The Knicks should hang around the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, and they're definitely going to be a tough out in the playoffs. At number 11, I have the Orlando Magic, and honestly I wanted to put them even a little bit lower, but with their current record of 16-10, it felt disrespectful to put them too much lower. They have had a fairly easy schedule so far, as I mentioned in the Magic and Thunder video, and they are 4-5 in their last 9 games, but generally they've beat the teams they should beat, and they've lost to the teams that they should lose to. And again, they are doing all of this without 2 of their starters, Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter Jr. Still, this is a really fun team to watch, especially with Paolo Banchero playing so well lately, and a team that should stay in the playoff race all year. At number 12, you have your NBA in-season tournament champions. Just another accolade for the GOAT. No, but seriously, congratulations, but the Lakers have been playing a little bit suspect as of late. They're 5-6 in their last 11 games, and they had an ugly loss to the 4-20 Spurs. Still, there's nothing really new here except that Reeves has been playing a little bit better as of late, while LeBron and AD have stayed mostly healthy. They're still 15-13, and they're going to make the Western Conference playoffs. At number 13, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. With CJ McCollum back in the lineup, the Pelicans have been playing some good basketball. You would love it if Zion Williamson could lay off the triple cheeseburgers and revert back to the player he was in his All-Star season, but he still has been playing at a near All-Star level. And when it comes to pure talent, their starting lineup of CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas is one of the best in the league, and they have some nice bench pieces too, especially with Trey Murphy back in action now. They did lose to a bad team by record in the Grizzlies last night. It just sucks for them that they had to get the Ja Morant revenge game. And at number 14, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've been fine this season, but you still have to be a little disappointed if you are one of the 17 Cavalier fans who have stuck around after LeBron left. They came in with high expectations last year after a brutal series loss to the Knicks. And I think almost everyone expected them to at least be a great regular season team, top 4 in the conference, let's say, but they just haven't pulled away to the top yet. Donovan Mitchell has been as advertised, averaging 28 points per game, but Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen look to have gotten worse from last year, and although they fixed a big issue in acquiring Max Strus, a 3-and-D wing, plenty of other issues have arisen. Now it looks like they're going to be without Darius Garland and Evan Mobley for the foreseeable future, and they could slip down in a super competitive Eastern Conference. At number 15, I have the Miami Heat. You almost just forget about the Miami Heat during the regular season, they just exist. They're 16-12 and doing fine keeping up with the rest of the pack in the Eastern Conference, although they've missed Tyler Hero for most of the season. But the other night their whole team was back for the first time in over a month. They are also doing the Miami Heat thing where other players have no business picking up the slack. This year it's the resurgence of Duncan Robinson and the all-rookie level play from Jaime Jaquez Jr. They're probably going to finish the season with 46 wins, but this is definitely not a team you want to see in the playoffs as they've shown us in the last few seasons. At number 16, all the way down at number 16, I have the Phoenix Suns. How the mighty have fallen, honestly. They were all the way at number 6 in my previous power ranking. They were 11-6 and it looked like they were finally going to get completely healthy. And they did get completely healthy. The big three all played together in a loss on the Nets on December 13th, and they also all started the game against the Knicks on December 15th until Bradley Beal went down again and is now out for another couple of weeks. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker have been pretty fantastic, all things considered. They're just going to have stretches where they struggle to carry this G League level team around them, and right now they're in one of those tough stretches. At number 17, I have the Indiana Pacers. Since their surprising run to the in-season tournament final, they have struggled a little bit, losing 4 of their last 6, with their only wins coming against the lowly, and I mean lowly, Detroit Pistons and the Charlotte Hornets. With Tyrese Haliburton running the show, this is a super exciting team to watch, and they have some other talent like Benedict Mathurin, Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, but it's clear they don't have the talent to be a top 4 team like they were at the beginning of the season. They definitely do have the ability to be a pesky lower seed in the playoffs though. At number 18, we have the Houston Rockets. I'm glad they hit a little bit of a cold streak, not because I don't like the Rockets, but because I didn't want to put them any higher in my power rankings, and their record finally justifies my placement. This is just the most team in the NBA. They have no 20-point scorers, but Sengun, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and even Dylan Brooks having a career year have all done their parts. Still, the subpar play of Fred VanVleet is really limiting this team, and they're still young. At number 19, I have the Brooklyn Nets, a team that just fell below 500 with a loss against the Knicks on Wednesday. Since Cam Thomas returned to the lineup on November 30th, the Nets are 4-6. He's averaged 22 points on 43-43 splits. I really don't know what to think of him. He's a good shot creator, but if Cam Thomas is leading your offense, you're probably not going to be a good offense, you know? Mikal Bridges has been good as the two-way co-leader of the offense, and they have some good surrounding pieces, but all that adds up to about a 500 record. At number 20, I have the Golden State Warriors, and before this recent 3-game winning streak, things were getting really bad. That slump was kind of seeming less like a slump and more just how this team is. On top of that, Draymond Green obviously needs his counseling because he can't realize he's not a WWE fighter. Wiggins is a bench player 2 years after being an all-star starter. And now Steph can't even hit a 3. He broke his 300 consecutive game stretch of hitting a 3. The season isn't over yet, and this 3-game winning streak as of late is providing a little bit of optimism, but overall things are not looking great for the Dubs. At number 21, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Congratulations, Atlanta fans, you guys finally got away from teetering around 500. Now you're just stuck under 500. I hate Trae Young's game, but I guess you can't be mad with his 28 points and 11 assists per night, even if they are extremely empty, in my opinion. The weird thing is that their lineup doesn't have any glaring holes. They have good shooters, they have good playmaking at the guard spots, good interior defense in their center rotation, and some 3-and-D wings. They just aren't good enough, I guess. It just doesn't matter if your team is balanced if that balance just isn't good. At number 22, I have the Chicago Bulls. I was a little harsh on my Bulls in the last ranking, and while I still agree with everything I said, they've been a bit better recently, 6-4 in their last 10 games, and they're 12-17 now, and I think they actually squeaked into a play-in spot if the season ended today. Still, whether they're bad or mediocre, the future of this team is not in a good spot, and they really need to trade some guys by the trade deadline. At number 23, I have the Toronto Raptors, and although they're currently 11-16, things are not all doom and gloom in Toronto. They had a good run, they made the playoffs in 8 out of 9 seasons between 2014 and 2022, and they obviously won their championship in 2019. But it really looks like they're going to miss the playoffs for a second consecutive season. But the development of Scottie Barnes has been super interesting. He's been following a similar path to Kawhi Leonard. This year, he's shown an ability to be a good shooter and even create for himself off the dribble. Him and Pascal Siakam can work together, I think, but OG Anunoby has to go. His skill set has too much overlap with Scottie, and Scottie is just the better and younger player. At number 24, I have the Utah Jazz. They weren't expected to be major contenders this year, but there definitely was some optimism after their hot start to the 2022 and 2023 season. Well, it turns out they're just a slightly below average team, but the direction of this team is still good. Walker Kessler and Keontae George feel like pieces for the future for this team, and the verdict is still out on Lauri Markkanen. But with all these future picks, they can afford to go through a bit of a rebuild. At 25, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. They were off to a terrible start to the season at 6-19, but they did win against the Pelicans the other night to improve to 7-19. Besides the fact that they made a 24-point comeback, the real reason this was significant is that they finally got 12 back. He had 34 points in his return from being totally humble under God, and he had the game winner. The Grizzlies have dug themselves in quite a hole, but with Ja back, don't count them out yet. They will make a rise in my power rankings in the next video, I guarantee it. At number 26, I have the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to be totally honest, I think I've watched about 80 minutes of Hornets basketball this season, and that's only because I went to a Knicks-Hornets game. I mean, they have some pieces here, but they're nowhere near a competent team. Terry Rozier is definitely upping his trade value with the good season he's been having, and since Scoot Henderson's been so bad, maybe Brandon Miller wasn't too bad of a pick. Congratulations, Charlotte. Yay! And speaking of Scoot Henderson, I have the Portland Trail Blazers at 27. A win over the Phoenix Suns the other night was nice, but yeah, they're just another one of the subpar teams in the NBA. It's nice to see Anthony Simons back, and Shaedon Sharpe is in some most improved player discussions. Unfortunately for them, Dominatin has been clanking, and their bench is just putrid. Scoot Henderson is still struggling, but coming out of the G League Ignite, this was always a large possibility. They don't have a terrible core for the future, but they are still years away. At number 28, I have the Washington Wizards. It feels weird to have two teams below them as they are 4-22, but they don't have any 15-plus game losing streaks on the season, so I guess that gives them the edge over two teams, but that's a low bar. They are bad, Jordan Poole is bad, Kuzma and Deni Avdija are probably the only two things you could count as maybe bright spots on the season, but yeah, it's bad. At number 29, I have the San Antonio Spurs. Do they realize they don't have to keep tanking for Victor Wembanyama? I mean, they finally broke their 17-game losing streak against the Lakers a few days ago, but even if they didn't, they'd still be at number 29, because there is one team that is somehow even worse. At 4-22, this is obviously just a development year for Wemby. Side note though, stop playing Jeremy Shohan at point guard, it's annoying me. And at the very bottom, for the second straight iteration, we have the Detroit Pistons. Losers of their last 24 games. These dudes really don't want to give anyone free Wingstop. I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point. They've lost more than a quarter of the NBA season consecutively. I think they're on pace for the worst winning percentage in NBA history, and their roster isn't even all that bad. Like, you have Cade Cunningham, you have Jaden Ivey, you have Jalen Duren, but I guess you also have Killian Hayes, and that counteracts all the good. And that does it for my third iteration of the Sports Ball Network NBA Power Rankings. Thank you guys for watching the previous two. They've gotten pretty good support on the channel, and I really hope to continue making these. I think they're really fun to make these Power Rankings videos. So if you enjoyed this one, make sure to leave a like and comment anything you want to comment, and subscribe if you continuously like this Sports Ball Network content. Until next time, peace.